the opportunity to, thank you, go to Michelle Eating's third grade classroom in Sand Lake. And it was so much fun for me because I hadn't been in a third grade classroom for, almost 4 years now. So Michelle invited me to come in, and we together did this lesson on the 10 best things, or 10 things, Jeff Anderson's 10 things every writer needs to know. We kind of combined some of the things that were there with some other things we found. And so we always start, not that I would start the children with this necessarily, but this comes from the Common Core Standards, MESA Writing Unit 4, where writers learn strategies for drafting realistic fiction stories. And the teaching point is the strategy of using details, and the mid-workshop teaching point is showing, not telling. And this is a lesson that, as Michelle and I were able to discuss the lesson afterwards, we talked about how important this lesson would just go and go and go, because this was a one-shot deal that we did, and the kids were pretty excited about it. But we found so many avenues to branch off afterwards. And so today, when I kind of walk you through the lesson that we did, I'm going to also talk to you about what we decided we would tweak a little when we went through it. So this was just a quote from Jeff Anderson, and I didn't even start with that with the kids. But so what I did tell them, though, when I came in the room, and Michelle introduced me, I walked in, and it just so happens that Monday night, I think I broke my toe. I rammed my toe into a couch. And so when I walked into this third grade classroom, never having seen these children before, there I was with one shoe and one flip-flop. And so I introduced myself and told the kids that I used to be a third grade teacher, so I was so excited to be back. And then I said, do you notice anything different about me? And they said, wow, you're wearing two different shoes. And I said, yes, I am. I said, yesterday I hurt my foot. And then I just said, well, wait a minute, let me tell you more about what happened to me. Yesterday I went to my daughter's house, and my 3-year-old granddaughter was on the couch, and I was so excited to see her. So I rushed in to sit down with her, and I slammed my baby toe into the foot of the couch. And I howled and hooted and held my foot, and my daughter came running in, and what's the matter? And I told her, and in the meantime, my granddaughter, who was 3, who was sound asleep, woke up and just looked at me. So anyway, they laughed, and it was really fun. But I said, boys and girls, that's why I'm here today, to talk to you about your writing and how the details make such an improvement, or it makes your writing exciting. And the most important thing is when you write for readers, you want them to be able to make a picture in their mind. And to do that, we have to add details. But also, when we're talking about details, because details allow you to give examples, and they're really evidence of what you're talking about. Details help us to really focus in on the important parts of a story, rather than make it so broad we really don't know what happens. And details appeal to the senses. They appeal to your sense of sight and taste and feeling and all of those senses. And I think the most important thing about details is that details move you from just words on the page right to being in the action. So that's why details are so important. And then we talked about a little bit more, and then I talked to them about, but one thing, and this is really important, boys and girls, one thing is that just adding more and more details won't make your writing better. It's just the right details that you want to add. And it was kind of like that Goldilocks rule, and they all knew about the story of Goldilocks. I said, not too hot, not too cold, just right. Well, that's the same thing with writing. We want not too much, not too few, but just the right amount of details. So when we're writing and trying to paint a picture of a person or a character, we need to think about what those characters are saying, what those characters are doing, how other people see the characters. And you know, when you're reading a story and you're really involved, you want to know what the character looks like. So all those things are very important for our writing. And then I gave him a sentence, and I said, if I said to you, Dad walked in the door, he was tired, you kind of know what I meant. But what if I said, Papa slogs through the door, pouchy bags under his eyes, a mustard stain on his shirt? You know, when I read that, I'm thinking that Papa's really tired, because I know that word slogs means his shoulders are drooping and he was walking slowly. And bags, I know what big bags, I fight those all the time, we all do. I know what bags are under the eyes, and so that tells me too that he was really tired. And on top of that, I'm wondering if he doesn't work at McDonald's or some restaurant, because he had that stain on his shirt. So we talked about how those details make a sentence come alive. So the writing strategy that we're always talking about is the writing strategy to use details to show and not just tell what you mean. And then we put a few of those sentences on the board, or on the overhead. So and this was all done just with them in their seats. And so first of all, showing, not telling. Oops, I have to switch. I'm not used to all this equipment. So there we go. Okay, so a telling sentence would be, she was hungry. A showing sentence would be, Emily's mouth watered. Another telling sentence, and this was from Stone Fox, Grandpa was sick. But the showing sentence would be, one day Grandfather wouldn't get out of bed. He just lay there and stared at the ceiling. And then I had a couple more, and I tried to start from very short sentences and then to a little bit longer ones. And this was one that kind of related to them. I missed the ball again. It was my second strike. All I wanted was a hit. I raised the bat and I hit the ball and ran to first base. I was safe. But if I turned it into a telling sentence, it might read something like this. Whoosh, strike two, the umpire called. I stepped back out of the batter's box and hung my head. Just a hit, I thought, that's all I want. I swung the bat a couple of times to loosen up and took my place again near the plate. With my heartbeat throbbing in my ears, I raised the bat over my shoulder and waited. The pitcher pulled back and let the ball fly. I watched it speed toward me, and smack, I dropped the bat and ran and ran and ran. Safe, first base. And so, because we have such a diverse group of writers in our classrooms, we can go from the very simple sentences, which some kids will need, to some kids are ready for something a little bit more meaningful. So then, after we talked about some of these, then I asked them to help me with a sentence to revise it. And so this was part of our kind of focus into guided reading or guided writing. And so the sentence I had was, I'm hungry, I'm hungry and I want some pizza. And so, and as I said, one of the things that I'm going to share with you is what I would do differently. So we did that a little bit, but next time I would do that, I would have a word bank for kids as I was working with them. Here's my word bank. Here it is. If you look at these words, third graders know these words, but when they're trying to revise, they can't always come up with some of those. So those kind of word banks are really helpful, because we're really teaching kids how to do it. And what we want then, the end product, is that they'll be able to use some resources and use some of these good words that they know that they don't always have access to right at the moment when you're working with them. So we revised a sentence. And then the next thing that we did for the collaborative piece is I passed out, I had kids get in partners, and I passed out this sheet of paper to them. And is this the one that, this is the one, okay. And so I talked to them, I'm getting ahead of myself. There was one other thing that I did before. Let's see. You did that. You did the 4 things.
Right. Do you have it? I have it.
Do you have it?
Just a real small one. That you can
Okay.
follow up.
Oh, okay.
Is that right?
Oh, you know what? I have it on the overhead. So what we talked about, that possibly when you want to revise showing, not telling, there are 4 things you could do. And I had a big poster of these 4. To use active verbs, use the exact words the character speaks, strike 2, the umpire called, or look out, the lady screamed. Show the feelings of a character by what he does. He hung his head, his heart was racing, those kinds of things. And paint pictures with very specific words. I raised the bat over my shoulder. So we had a kind of a poster to help kids when they were going to be working with some revision. And then for the collaborative piece, what we did is we had kids get in groups of 2 and passed out this sheet. And what we asked them to do is, I read it to them once they had the paper. So they looked at the paper and I read it through once. And then I asked them to underline some words or phrases that really jumped out at them. So 2 things that, as Michelle and I discussed this afterwards, that we would do differently. The first thing is that I would have them practice underlining, because some of the kids underlined a lot. So I would maybe practice just some things that spoke to me. And it doesn't have to be just verbs, but like a loud buzz I liked, or let's see, snooze button 3 times. But I would really practice that with them a little bit before I would give them that sheet again. Because what they did is they underlined it. Both Michelle and I kind of walked around the room, and we kind of straightened that out with a couple kids that they were underlining a lot. And so, and they did that together. They had 1 sheet of paper, each had a marker. But then what we did is we had them get in groups of 4. And then what they were to do is take turns and share what they underlined and tell why they underlined it. And then their partners were to just respond to that in any way, whether they just said, oh yeah, I underlined that too, or yeah, that was a good one, whatever, just kind of some dialogue. So they were talking about strong words to use in writing. And that worked out pretty well. Michelle, jump in here with
The shockingly cold shower. One of my boys was actually acting that out. I looked over and he was going, that shockingly cold shower. Remember when?
Yeah, right,
And that
right.
was, they really got into that, and especially Tom. He's Mr. But they really got into that. They enjoyed doing that and discussing it and talking about it, and that was a great thing.
So we did that, and then it was after that, and I'm just going to go back to my PowerPoint for just a minute to kind of walk this through with you. Okay, so we're a little bit, what did my thing go? Okay, so we talked. So those are the words that and we went through some show, don't tell, showing, telling, showing. The other one that worked really well was I was shy, and then this one, I looked down at the floor, I swayed from side to side. And, with that whole diverse group of kids, some kids could do that and add that, and some kids could just revise one little sentence, but that was fine.
I have a shy little girl in my room that actually barely even looks up, and I saw a couple of kids
Oh, really?
And
Yeah.
so they really could associate with that one and what it looks like and how it feels, because that's who she is.
Yeah. And so at each turn of that gradual release, we tried to restate our teaching points. The kids really understood exactly what this lesson was all about. Use details to show what the characters are doing, thinking, and saying and feeling. And then those are the 4 ways that we had the poster up there. Just as, just as a reminder, and then revised, and they found the words and phrases. And again, now the independent work, they were ready to go back to their seats and look through their folder, and we asked them to find one sentence, maybe 1 or 2. And for this purpose, because we wanted to kind of share with you, we asked them to write their one sentence on a separate piece of paper after they found it. And so they found those telling sentences, and we worked quite a while after that with kids, and you explained, you were there as far as following the kids around. They were working pretty hard on their sentences and just.
They were excited. They were actually wanting to do it and very excited to dive in there and see what they could do.
And so then once we worked probably for about 20 minutes, I would say, on that writing. And then I had the kids all come up with their papers upside down on the floor. And then I asked a couple or 3, I think 3 or 4 shared the first sentence that they wrote, and then they shared their telling sentence, and then they shared their showing sentence. And we had again a very diverse group. And Michelle actually has some samples of what the kids wrote on there. So she's going to share with you a little bit of her perspective and some of the things that her kids did yesterday. And do you want me to put the this document camera back on?
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
Yeah.
Well, they all want her to come back. When is she coming back? When is she coming back? They all loved you, and I learned so much from her. It was so awesome. My last year's kids loved to write, and so we wrote all the time, and they would have eaten this up and just expanded. This year's group is totally different. It's like they're getting there, and I'm excited about their growth, but it's been more painful. But they, just to see the enthusiasm after she taught this, the enthusiasm to want to rewrite their sentence. This is, can you see Blake? This is Blake. Blake has a really he's come a long way. But when he sits down, he just freezes up. So here's his first sentence. I asked if I could take Carly for a walk. Here's his showing. Dad, can I please take Carly for a walk? Go for it, he answered, but be careful. I was excited. I flew down the stairs as fast as I could. Come on, Carly, let's go. So then he's got his picture in him, and he's digging it. I mean, he's ready to go now.
And this little boy was so cute. And when I went into class, you could tell immediately that Michelle has worked with her kids. They knew, they stayed on task, and they were writers, so it was fun. But this little boy was so sweet and excited, and Michelle, I think, has this wonderful thing. When they transition, they can give a hug. And this little boy was coming up to me and giving me, I was so afraid that he was going to step on my toe.
Oh. He used to be a huge troublemaker and has just grown so much this year, and now he's like all hugs. Do you see my typed one up there? I'm sorry. I typed a few just because they're hard to read. Kevin, you can see his writing right here. I mean, it's just so, that's good writing. He has to have his paper, but he is one of my very much strugglers. Kevin, it started with, can it get bigger? Oh, wow, you can see it. I am playing on the trampoline with Bobo, JJ, and Dustin. That's his sentence he picked. Now remember, he's my struggler. I am going to play on the big trampoline with my friends, Bobo, JJ, and Dustin. We are going to jump higher and higher and higher. Then we are going to play ball on the big trampoline, which kind of isn't it, but at least it's some detail. If you want to take other people's air, then you have to jump in front of them. They will go higher and you will stay low. For him, I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry.
Well, and you know what? It's focused. It's all focused. It's